Okay, we're going to do a midweek review. So we're going to talk about 3 games, the 4th, the 5th and the 6th match. Now there's a huge amount of content out there following the games in terms of all the detail and how the match unfolded. So I'm going to try and talk about key points that I think are important for this game, but also moving forward, and then what potential options the sides could do moving forward. So slightly different in terms of the way I'll review than others. Firstly, we're going to go back to the DC LSG game, which was a cracking game. Obviously, DC ended up winning by 1 wicket, and the man of the match, Ashutosh Sharma, I'll talk about him in a bit more detail later on. But obviously, I talked about LSG batting first, which is always going to be an issue. Excuse me, dropped the pen there. It's always going to be an issue because of their bowling depth, and we've talked about that. So every time you see LSG batting first, I always worry for them. Regardless of whether Avesh Khan comes back or not, there's no real leader of that attack. So that is first and foremost is a bit of a concern. And they were very good with the bat to start with. You know, Mitchell Marsh was exceptional. He got 72 off 36. But the one thing we never saw from LSG really is trying to get him hitting through the offside. We know that anything on length he's going to try and pick up over the leg side. Stark went around the wicket, went into his arc. There was a lot of balls sort of above the hip. They weren't even attacking the stumps. And when they were attacking the stumps, it was just a step hit. So you've got to take him away from that area that he wants to hit, which is long on to deep square leg. You've got to try and get him hit through the offside. He can do that, but nowhere near as effectively as he can pick up. He only has to get half of it, particularly at a ground like Vyshak, to hit it out of the park. So that was something that DC is certainly going to have to learn from if they come against Marsh or another type of player where they clear the front leg and look to go leg side. Pooran got 75 off 30. He was dropped on 17 off Rizvi, a relatively straightforward chance. Those catches happen, and that's part of the game. But basically from that point on, Pooran just put the foot down, and I felt a little bit sorry for Nigam, for Viprav, who actually should have got that wicket, got a bit of confidence, and after that he got hit out of the park a couple of times from Pooran. They tried the matchup of the off-spinner against Pooran when 2 left-handers were at the crease. They tried Tristan Stubbs, but he just bowled step hits. So he didn't bowl back of a length, he didn't bowl into the wicket where it might turn. He just pretty much lobbed it up, and Pooran just kept hitting him out of the park. 28 off the over. I just hope that DC, the planning is fine, it's just the execution. And I've seen Tristan Stubbs bowl hard into the wicket before, but for whatever reason, he was a little bit floaty in this game. The other point is when Pant got out, it was 3 for 161 of 13.4 overs. So at that point, you're looking for a score 230, 240, 250 even. And those 6.2 overs, they only scored 48. So I was a little bit concerned afterwards when Rishabh Pant said, no, we thought we had enough. So for me, that was a time of the game where it was a real turning point. And Mitchell Stark, sure, he got it right, coming around the wicket and hitting those Yorkers, and that's really good signs for DC moving forward, because he's a bit of a rhythm bowler. If he does hit those Yorkers, he can find that confidence and continue to hit it, especially from around the wicket. But for me, that was a real turning point because I thought they were well below par. They might have been a par score if they had a very good bowling attack, but we know LSG's weaknesses. So they have to get, when they're in that position, they have to dominate and get 220, 230, even 240 to get themselves to a winning score. So that was a point for me where they missed a trick. Kuldeep was excellent in terms of slowing it up, in terms of going wide away from the hitting zone. He showed his experience and his improvement towards the back end of the Champions Trophy. And that gave LSG an indication of what they would do with an impact player. And they brought in M. Sadat from Tamil Nadu. We've talked about he's a fine bowler. He's got excellent control, and his record domestically is superb. So they brought him in conditions where the ball did hold a little bit, and he basically bowled really nice. His first 3 overs were excellent and got LSG into the match. So 209, as I said, LSG were relatively happy with that, albeit they should have got more. DC have come out of the gates hot, and what I would say with someone like Jake Fraser-McGurk is I've got no issue at all with him trying to hit the first ball for 6, but you've got to hit in areas that are suitable to those conditions. And the one thing we did find is that the ball did swing a little bit in the first innings, and it did hold. So LSG was smart. They put long off back straight away. So Jake Fraser-McGurk's second ball from Shardul Thakur little outswinger. He's tried to hit it straight. It's just swung, hit the outside half of the bat and gone to long off. So for me, it's a really soft dismissal. No issue if the ball's wider and you try and hit it over long off, the ball swings, there's no sweeper, it's 4, it's a safe shot. He also is very good at that pickup shot over there and hits that for 6 as well. I'd be far happier if he tried that. But to try and hit straight down the ground against the swinging ball early on with long off back is a really tough option, and I'm sure he would think about that. No issue with having attacking intent, no issue with wanting to take the game on, but you've got to choose options that suit the conditions and suit your skill set. So he would look back at that. What I would say is at 3 for 7, DC have lost Fraser McGurk, Porel and Rizvi, so 3 very inexperienced players. And I would question that when KL was missing, this match due to family situation with a baby, I'm unsure where Karan Nair would fit in. Because if Karan Nair is not going to fit in at 4 in that game, where you're missing experience of KL Rahul, I don't think he's going to play this season. Because that is the perfect time to go, right, we're missing KL, we want some experience. Karan Nair is in the form of his life. We've picked him rather than a talented Rizvi who still hasn't achieved anything yet in the IPL. To say, hey, Karan Nair, now's the time for you to go and show that experience and hold that middle order together so we can use the likes of Stubbs, Ashutosh, Akshar through the middle. So for me, that was a miss from DC. If KL's back, he'll slot in the middle anyway. But if he's out for a little bit longer, then for me, they have to look at Karan Nair. And now it's the Ashutosh Sharma show, really. 5 for 66, so 2.8% chance of winning at that point. Then when Tristan Stubbs got out, 113 for 6, 1.5% chance of winning. It soon went down to 1.2, and then Ashutosh, it was his show. And I think the one thing with Ashutosh, and I'm going to go in detail in a different video about his technique, but he always clears the front leg. So he's in a position purely with his hips like this to be able to hit. He lovely uses his bottom hand to be able to hit nice and straight if you land the ball in that area. And unfortunately, whether it was spin or pace, LSG kept putting it in an area where he was able to access the ball with power. And he showed he was calm, he was composed, he showed a huge amount of skill and power. But I think if you're LSG, you'll look back and go, hey, what are some other options I could have done? And as I said, I'm certainly going to go into that in a bit more detail around his technique and some other ways you can deal with that. If you get faced a power player like that again, and LSG certainly will. There were some good signs though. Firstly, I think Vipram Nigam needs some kudos as well in terms of that partnership. And the skill set of a wrist spinner who can bat at 8 and have power is a huge asset for Indian cricket. So they need to continue. They need to continue give him more time. His figures bowling wise didn't look impressive. He had that drop catch of Pooran, but you need to give him time. So the ability to bat at 8 means they can bat really deep with power, and they've got the option of another wrist spinner along with Kuldeep. So hopefully they continue to play Vipraj and he gets better and better as the season progresses. A couple of promising signs for LSG. Shardul, I think the fact he swung the new ball, could not understand why he did not come back at the end and bowl at least one over at the death. He did that for CSK for years. He's done it for India. He mixes it up. He can bowl back of the hand. That for me was a real miss, the fact he's only bowled 2 overs when you've got a guy going hard at the far end. And I think Dignesh Ratty was a really impressive sign for LSG. Sort of a Sunil Narayan clone, keeps the ball behind his back, can bowl the carom ball. Just good signs, and someone that I think LSG will continue to invest in as the season goes on. I think DC will be delighted, as they should be. They got it from 1.2% to win the match. For LSG, it's a game that very much got away. And I think when you have limited bowling resources like they do, sure, it's the Ashutosh factor. The fielding efficiency for LSG wasn't great. And then the use of resources I would question in terms of why Shardul didn't bowl at the back end in particular. But I would consider this as a game for LSG that got away. And I'm going to move on to match number 5, which is Gujarat Titans against the PBKS Punjab Kings. and both the first match for both sides. Now another high scoring affair at Ahmedabad, always a beautiful pitch there, has something in it for everybody, big playing surface, so yeah, really enjoyable ground to play. So let's just talk, obviously Punjab went on to win the game by 11 runs, and that's, seems relatively easy. 243 Punjab Kings got first. Now, the first talking point for me was Priyansh Arya. And we know that he came into this squad, he had a huge reputation having hit 6 sixes off and over. There was talk about whether he was going to play the game or not, whether they would have gone with the likes of Josh Inglis at the top, and then they would not have been able to play Amarzai. So they went with Amarzai instead of Wadera. That was a decision that they made, gave him an extra bowling option, and Priyansh Arya was exceptional. Now, you look at the fact he's got 47 off 23, probably the thing that stands out for me is really only a 45% shot efficiency. So that basically talks about the fact that he's actually hit the ball where he wants to. Now, that's fine if you're in the power play and you've got that really attacking intent, and that's exactly what he did. He always committed to every ball. Now, the thing that gets players unstuck, especially new ones, is where they're a little bit uncertain, they're not committed to a shot. The one thing I really like to see about Priyansh Arya is that he committed to everything. So once he decided the shot he was going to play, got in great position, full body swing, whether it came off the outside half, the inside half, doesn't really matter. But anyway, it gave him a good start. Shreyas Iyer, for me, we've got a little bit of roadworks in the background. We're actually outside at the moment because we've lost power. So hence the sound might be a little bit of an issue. I apologise for that, but we'll try and keep it moving as best we can. Shreyas Iyer was absolutely outstanding, probably one of his best IPL innings ever. The thing that stands out for me is not his spin hitting, because we know he is exceptional at that, and he pretty much negated the threat of Rashid Khan, who got 1 for 48 off 4, and he's normally the one who ties up the middle overs. So he was exceptional. For me, it's his use of the short ball, the ball above his waist to his head. He's now getting in a much more side-on position. Now, what he used to do, because he was worried about the short ball, is he would get back and he would open up his hips. So he basically could flap it, or he could get inside it to hit it offside. Now he's staying in a stronger position so he can actually hit the ball, or he can come back and hit the ball over the offside. He's not in this no man's land position where his shoulders are open and he can't go anywhere. So really pleased with the way he's playing, and a lot of that's to do with confidence, and I'm sure he's got plenty of confidence again from his performance in the Champions Trophy recently. 20th over was a big turning point. Went for 23 off Siraj, and Siraj at the back end he started chasing the game. So he was behind the game, he was chasing Shashank Singh, who was ahead of it. He was basically manipulating where he wanted the ball to be bowled, and that was such a critical over, 23 runs off it, and when you only lose by 11, that's something that they could certainly look at and go, hey, we could have done that a little bit better. If they played great shots off great balls and there were good, clear planning, I can cope with that. But there was real scattergun in the thinking in terms of what the plan was and where he was trying to execute. The other part of that was Shashank's skill, for sure, and also the selflessness of Shreyas Iyer, who was on 97 at the time, who basically knew that those amount of runs they got in the last over were going to be far more important than a personal milestone if they're to try and win the game. So that's a huge fillip for someone like Shreyas in terms of I'm thinking about the team before myself. And as I said, absolutely outstanding from Shashank again. For me, I've got worrying signs for GT, and I mentioned them in the preview, is that all three quicks are the same. The fact that Prasidh Krishna, who's a new ball bowler, didn't get the ball till the 8th over, which pretty much negated his bounce and his movement off the seam. They brought in a left armour to give them a little bit of point of difference. He's a swing bowler. He got the ball in the 4th over, so the ball's not going to swing. The ball swings for probably 2 overs max in these games. Maybe 3, but generally 2. So if you're bringing in a left armour because you want variation, you want to swing it, you can't give him a ball in the 4th over when it's going gun barrel straight. It's just too difficult. But I look at that side, I look at Siraj, I look at Rabada, I look at Prasidh. As I said, they're all best, or Prasidh and Siraj definitely with the new ball. Rabada can bowl first change, but he was given the new ball in this game, which, as I said, negated the skill of Prasidh Krishna. The other option in the squad that they could look at for something different is Ishant Sharma, who obviously bowls big innings, but once again, he needs the new ball. So when I look at the balance of this squad, I see that it's a little bit imbalanced in terms of how they can construct their 20 overs in all three phases. So a bit of a worry there for GT moving forward. The top three were exceptional, and we always talk about that top three setting the tone for the rest of the side, or setting the innings up for the power players. They did that, and 169 for 2 after 14 overs. There's a 50% or 56% chance of GT winning that game. So the top order had set the platform ready for that middle order to take over. They brought in Shafane Rutherford as the impact player. Now, for me, that's a bit of a concern. I guess they've done it because they think about the fact that Bra might come as a left-arm spinner. I don't think he's ever coming in the 15th over to bowl an over or two at the back end. It was always going to be a seamer. It was Vyshak that they decided upon. And the one thing I'd say with Rutherford, he's an absolutely wonderful player, power player, but very offside dominant against seamers. So what happens with that, whereas Phillips is a little bit more mobile, he moves around the crease, he won't let players dictate a plan in terms of bowling outside off. So really important there, important decision that probably had an impact on the outcome of the game. If I look at then, Vyshak came on, he bowled the 15th and the 17th over. By the end of the 17th over, GT had not lost a wicket, but they dropped from 56 to a 12% chance of winning. And that's just on the back of Vyshak bowling a wide line, and all we saw from Shafane Rutherford is always trying to hit offside. Now, if it's wide, you're trying to hit offside, you're only hitting with half a bat. So the best you're going to do is just in front of point to behind point. He laid one off, finer, he got a boundary, but when you're hitting that side and the guy's bowling wide, you've got limited options. We saw Tavatia do it once where he moved across and he hit a 6 over there. You've got to do something better where you can actually have the full face of the bat on the ball rather than half a blade. So, that was an interesting move, and as I said, the game was pretty much over on the back of 2 excellent overs from Vyshak Vijay Kumar. Only 2 down at the 18 over mark, and you find yourself 11 runs short. GT will be looking and going, hey, could we have done a bit more? And we're going to move on quickly to match number 6, RR against KKR Assam. Now, obviously there's a little bit of drizzle overnight, so this sort of just shows how keen I am to get some of this review content out for you. Hopefully it won't rain too much and we'll be able to get through it as quick as we can. For RR, obviously the game was at Assam, which we talked about was Rian Parag's home. KKR won the toss, they decided to bowl, and a huge loss for them, losing Sunil Narayan through illness, and Moeen Ali came in. So that's a straight swap. So it pretty much shows some good planning from KKR. They didn't need to restructure their side, just a straight swap. Everyone else stayed in pretty much the same position. So some good planning there. Obviously, RR started batting. There were some starts from all the top 3. What I would say is that, once again, I talked about Rian Parag not batting him at number 3. And the reason why I say that is it's quite a different tempo. Now, he got out in the 8th over, caught on the fence. Now, that's okay for a player like that to do that towards the back end of the innings. If he's set the game up and there's a whole heap of talent behind him. But the thing we know with RR at the moment is they rely very heavily on domestic talent. And Rian Parag made huge strides at 4 last year, owning those middle overs and then batting into the death. Now, to bat at 3, it is a completely different tempo in terms of the pace that you need to bat at. And I'll say it again, Nitesh Rana for me has done it before many times. He should be batting at 3. He should be helping get out of the power play towards the 10th over. Rian Parag can come after that and play an innings of substance. I really look at that batting lineup, and I mentioned it before, but they are missing Josh Buttler or just another experienced head or an overseas batter. They've got plenty of talent. They've got a number. You look at Jaiswal. You look at Sanju Samson, high quality player. You look at Rian Parag, who's played for India as well. But they haven't played a huge amount of cricket in terms of playing for India, in terms of high pressure situations. Sanju Samson's been in the IPL a long time. Jaiswal, sure, but the amount of international experience is limited. And part of the IPL is learning off others as well. And I think they need to be surrounded. Talent for me needs direction. And it needs to be surrounded by somebody who holds that together, whether it's a Josh Buttler, whether it's another overseas player who bats in the middle, who can set the game up. But to have your only overseas batter as Hetmeyer, who in this instance came in at number 8, when the game was pretty much, when they were very much in trouble. He came in the 14th, 15th over. You're actually trying to hide the player that you retained. He could have come in the 10th over ahead of Shubham Dubey, but they're hiding him to bat at number 8, so he only has to bat the last 5 overs. Now, that's fine if the rest of the batting order's done the job, but they just haven't. They were ranked 8th last year as a batting group, and they've removed a key aspect in Joss Buttler. So to think that you can go through the whole season with just domestic batters in your top 6 is something that I think RR will regret. They were second with the ball, and they pretty much retained only Sandeep Sharma from a bowling perspective. So certainly some questions there. They got squeezed by spin in the middle by Moeen and Chakravarti. They only got 151, which was a well below par score. I think from KKR's point of view, Spencer Johnson was a little bit better today. Came back at the death, got a wicket at the end. Hopefully would have got a little bit of confidence from that perspective for them. But I still think I saw Nokia sitting in the dugout, and I think as soon as he's fit, that KKR bowling lineup looks far more destructive than what it does currently. In terms of the chase, Quinton de Kock was exceptional against spin initially. He saw off the new ball, then he attacked spin, took on Hasaranga and got them well ahead of the game, and he pretty much closed the game out off Archer, where he just took him downtown. He loves that ball on the hip where he can pick it up. So Quinton de Kock is very much a streak player. He's not a player that you're going to get 30 every game in a consistent start. He's going to get either nothing or plenty. And I think it's a great sign for KKR, because they look far better when one of their openers starts to build a platform, because we know they've got loads of power through the middle, but they look a little bit exposed too if the top order falls over. So Quinton de Kock getting what he got to finish on 97 not out was an incredible innings. And it was a professional innings from Rahane and Raghavanshi. And I think it reinforces the benefit of someone like Raghavanshi batting with experience around him. Whether he's batting with Rahane, whether he's batting with Quinton de Kock, he's batting with people that have played a huge amount of international cricket, so he's got the chance to learn. So I think that's a real benefit. I think they're worrying signs for RR, and you could see that from the visuals in the support staff, that they were a little bit lost for ideas. And you could see Parag as well was out in the field. He was captain, and he looked like he wanted someone to dig a hole and swallow him up. He was in a place that was uncomfortable. He probably didn't have the resources he would want from a bowling point of view. The game was getting away from him, and I felt a bit sorry for him in that point, because he didn't have too many options. So there are some worrying signs for RR. I raised them earlier, and I think it goes back to the auction strategy and even the retention strategy. And I think those two are married. If your retention strategy is sound in terms of, hey, I'm going to hang on to all this domestic talent, then you've got to make sure you fill the holes properly at the auction. To only leave with 6 overseas players is one that I'm sure RR will look back and think that they made a few errors there.